and we'd like to welcome y'all back to our third episode of our Less of a Man podcast. We want to thank you all for listening to our last two episodes, and the response has been great, right, guys?
Yeah, real good. Yeah,
real good.
Good. So as we get started, we want to always start this off with our mental health check-in. Edward, how you been doing this week?
And EJ is doing.
Oh, EJ. Bro, I'm not gonna call you EJ.
You're gonna have to call me. At some point in time.
EJ.
I'm not. So how is EJ doing this week?
EJ is doing good. It's been kind of busy. I feel like this half of the year has gone extremely fast.
Extremely.
But it's been a good week. Nothing really too crazy going on. I'm feeling good today. As always, it's always good to be here doing our podcast together. That's it.
All right, cool. Char, what about you?
I'm doing good this week. I have my niece here this weekend, so we have, I guess for the entire week actually, so we have a different type of energy in the house, trying to keep up with her, walking around. Besides that, I'm helping my family back in Louisiana is prepping for the 2 hurricanes that's coming their way.
You sound very excitedly.
I mean, that's how we roll, man. We get excited
about hurricanes.
So,
we're going to talk about get ready for the hurricane.
So everybody, y'all be safe. Get out of the area. We don't have any levees or we're under the area where they protect us. So get out of there and get on high ground. So
don't come to Georgia.
If y'all want to come to Georgia, y'all come to Georgia.
What about you, Raw?
This week's actually been a pretty good week. Not really stressful. Been really somewhat busy at work, but other than that, everything's been good.
Somewhat busy at work, locking up black people?
And white people.
Oh, and white people.
How many
Okay.
black people did you lock up this
What's
week?
the percentage?
Can we get a percentage breakdown?
Percentage of black people that we
That
locked
you-
up this week?
Yes.
In comparison to the white people.
We want to know how.
Whites.
Yeah, we want to know how much of the ops you are.
I don't know. I did not keep track of how many black people we locked up this week.
Do
and
you
the
feel
white
like
people.
it was more black
Or
people
less.
than white people, or?
Equal.
We can
or-
only lock up the people that were given warrants.
So more than usual.
So did you get more warrants for black people?
I didn't
or-
get any warrants for anybody.
Oh.
Okay, so everybody's free on Raw's watch.
Obviously, he's not answering that question.
Yeah.
Is what I gather. So
Yeah, so we're gonna move on.
yeah.
So,
Classified information.
so my mental health it's been a good week for me. I have a lot of positive things happening, and the only thing I struggle with is that I want to find a diet that's beneficial and healthy for me, but I still want to eat Snickers. So,
Why Snickers?
because I ate the Snicker ice cream
Okay.
the other day and I enjoyed it, and I just want to have that added onto my diet.
You could have this one bad thing for the day that makes you feel better.
So I can eat Snickers every day.
Not every day.
I was moderation.
In moderation. I wouldn't have a carton, every day, but
Yeah, so that's just the problems I have this week.
I mean, I guess what. So my friends, they do Ally.
Uh-huh.
You ever heard of that?
No, I haven't heard that.
So if you eat too much, I think it's fat. Too much fat. What it does is it makes your body automatically flush out fat. Now, the
nice.
fat that you have stored, it'll stay there. But whatever you eat, if it's too much fat, it comes
flushes out
in a crazy way.
Whoa, that don't sound like.
Wait, I'm
Yeah,
serious now.
that don't
It
sound like.
it literally expels it from your body. So you can think about how that.
Like it excretes it out my body, like on my pores.
just through the pores or
not
through
through your
the one.
digestive system.
Okay, that's all I'm getting at. Okay,
So-
that's what
Oh.
I figured.
Yeah, so it helps you kind of manage how much. So you can use that as a gauge, but anything in
No,
moderation.
I'm not about to use that. I'm not about to do that.
Daryl be in the bathroom all night.
All night.
Cats everywhere.
Because I ate 3 Snickers. Like,
Oh, wow.
So now the truth comes out, really, is what we're saying.
right. So for this episode, guys, we had another topic, but this is not a political kind of podcast. So I don't want us to go down that rabbit hole of being political, but I wanted to talk about something that was kind of more taboo in the black community. So so we just did a mental health check, but it's also about our mental health check kind of every day. It's about how we govern our emotions, how we release them, how we deal with them. So I wanted to kind of talk to you guys and kind of see how you guys deal with it, because you guys are gonna talk about you guys' history of it. So, and I'll just let you know real quick on mine. So I was in therapy for a short stint. Y'all know the story about my son. Of course, y'all listening don't know. Just a real quick. So I had a son, found out he wasn't mine, and I fell into like deep depression. Deep. It was so bad that it was threatening my relationships, was threatening my work. Almost got fired from work because I'm blowing up at people. And then everybody was like telling me I should go to therapy. And I'm like normal how us black people think. I'm like, I don't need therapy. Like, I thought depression was you just sad. Like, if you sad, do something that makes you happy. So it went to a point where I had to go. And I remember the first guy, I sat down and the therapist asked me, he was like, why are you here? And at that moment, I just busted out crying. I was like, oh my God, why am I here?
I know the story.
Yeah, why am I here? And I just said, oh my God. And I just busted out. I couldn't control it. I could not control it, man. And going to therapy helped me not only understand myself, but it helped me understand people. So now when I'm dealing with people, I kind of gauge what in their lifestyle has them thinking like this, what happened in their past. So I wanted to first ask you guys, have you guys went to therapy? And if so, did it help you guys in any way? So I'm going to start off. Shar, go ahead.
I know, Daryl, we've had this conversation before, and I guess we had the same response when we actually went to therapy. But I was like you where...
Hold on, didn't I tell you were going to cry?
Yeah, you told me I was going to cry, and indeed I did cry. So, but it wasn't actually my idea to go to therapy. Shanita was actually the one who made the appointment and suggested I go. And I went to therapy for, of course, I was diagnosed with renal failure about going on 4 years ago. And when I was first diagnosed, I kind of went about it as there was no issue. So I didn't slow down at no cost. I continued to work at the same pace I was working before I got diagnosed. And finally, like probably a year and a half later into my journey, my body completely shut down on me.
So were you like in denial?
I was definitely in denial because I just didn't want to believe that I was going through what I was going through. And probably wasn't doing the best for me, myself, health-wise, that I should have been doing.
Well, let me ask you, how did you first get the diagnosis? Like, what made you get tested?
It was literally one day, everything was going good. The next day, I just got the shock in the world. I had this persistent cough that I was dealing with that I just thought it was kind of attributed to just, having a cold, and it just wouldn't go away. So I went to the doctor's office to get checked for the cough. So it went from me being diagnosed with high blood pressure to the next thing being told that I had kidney failure. And within that week's time, I had surgery to install a port, and I was in my first dialysis session within a week of getting diagnosed.
So that went quick.
It went just like that. So I was probably in the hospital 14 days after that, and then from there, didn't even miss a beat as far as going back to work and actually traveling across the country, because I was literally traveling somewhere every week and while doing dialysis at whatever area I was in. So my body just shut down on me. So once it shut down on me the second time around, I just decided that I can't do this. So I just decided to take a long-term disability from my job and then kind of just quit completely. And that's when I entered my depression stage, because I went to a point where I literally didn't know what to do with myself, and I was just at home just sad. And like you, Daryl, I just thought, man, I'm sad. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm all good. Until, of course, I didn't realize I was impacting the people around me.
Right. And that's what I think that when you reach that level that you don't forget, and I'm going to let you finish. But I visualize, like, think of like a brick wall, and the brick wall is breaking. And that's me emotionally holding myself together. It was literally felt like I was sticking together with tape. Like, I'm trying to hold a brick wall up with tape, and I was breaking down like all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, any little trigger, I was breaking down. Was that similar to you?
Dude, I would be driving just randomly and hear a song on the radio.
Me too.
And I'll just break down crying.
No, that was me too.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't even know why. I'll just break down crying, and to the point where I just could not stop crying.
Mine was always the work. And it was like these J. Cole songs and Kendrick Lamar songs that me and my son would listen to together. And I could hear his voice saying those lyrics too. And it was just like, it happened to me too.
Yeah. So then finally I had my first session, and the guy was like, "So Shamorge, how you doing?" And I just went to tears.
You just broke down? It's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know what's going on in my life. Why my daddy left me? It was all kinds of random things just coming from, like, I didn't realize it was connected to what I was dealing with. And then from that point on, me and Daryl just kind of started talking to each other a lot about our session. So whenever I would leave my session, I'll talk to him, tell him what happened. Like, yeah, Daryl, I cried again this week. That really was a conversation between him and I.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that's kind of what I went through. And it was just, and to answer your question, it was definitely helpful because what I realized was it wasn't even more about me being diagnosed with the kidney failure. It was connected to so many other issues that I hadn't dealt with personally in my life. That once I realized that, I went back and decided to correct those parts of my relationship. One in particular being my relationship with my father. So from that session, and of course, being in a position where you're facing life and death and you really don't know if, what your last day is going to be, you don't want to be in a situation to fix something that you could have fixed.
Right.
So that's why I was like, let me just go ahead and start working on this relationship. And that's actually one of the positive things that came from going to therapy and actually realizing that there's so many issues that you just have not dealt with that you just want to go ahead and just put priority and deal with. So that's kind of what, I guess, a little bit of my story as far as how therapy helped me, as I'm moving forward, post kidney transplant and kind of dealing with that part of life. And, so yeah.
Yeah, and also you don't understand how like past stuff affects you now.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I saw was like, think of the worst things that happened to you, 2 worst things that happened to you as a kid, and almost look how that impacts you now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I kind of also learned. Edward, what about you?
Yeah. I had. It's similar to not my situation, but where I was. So mine actually happened when I felt like. Personally, I felt like I was dealing with things and I was dealing with them well, but I literally had like an emotional breakdown. And this was right before I decided to quit United Healthcare the first time. When I was there, they had me going, all over the place. I was in Manila, I was in Arizona, I was in Minnesota, I was in, all these different places. And things actually were going really well, but I think I wasn't really dealing with a lot of things that I've been carrying for like quite some time, and I actually had a breakdown. So that's when I decided to actually took some short-term leave from United Healthcare to try to deal with that. So I started going to therapy then, and it's just crazy how they like have you thinking about things that were really not related to what was going on then, but you kind of determine, like you guys said, like, things that happened to you a long time ago that you never resolved or you never spoke about or you just kind of swept them under the rug, they kind of do come back and haunt you, or they haunt you the entire time until you're made to face them and speak about them and talk about them. And I started to realize, wow, like these little things that I thought were nothing were actually, really impacting how I felt about myself. And my issues in my sessions were more about me feeling like not being in the place that I wanted to be, and being really, really hard on myself. So kind of making me break down because I felt like I wasn't like ever good enough or doing well enough or accomplished enough, or maybe I was failing my parents, and my parents maybe weren't proud of the work that I'd done. So it kind of all stemmed into that, and it was just, it's crazy. It helped because you had to talk about those things and you had to like own some things for yourself, but I definitely found it to be really beneficial.
That's interesting because you talk about the theme of yours, and my thing was probably like power. Like I felt like I was powerless and I wanted power, and he had to get me to the point where it's not about me having all the power, me not having power at all. It's about everything being equal. Like being in a place where I could trust people, they could trust me. But that's when I came in. My thing was strictly about control and power. I wanted to gain that back. Did you have one?
No, mine was control, and because from that point, I pretty much was in control of everything that had happened to me at that point. Even when I go back to my, going in my hometown, I was just known as that person who was going to achieve. That just was put on me.
Like everybody was, you were carrying the whole city on your back.
Yeah, not even the whole city in a sense, but it's just that I was just, like, even when I talk to my friends that I grew up with, they always tell me there was just no doubt that they realized that I was going to succeed because I just had that type of drive in me. And I think one of the things, when I got sick, it took my drive. The one thing that, I did always have. So with that drive went to me feeling like I had control of everything. So I think that was the one thing I took from it, that, there's just some things that you just are not ever going to be able to control. And the question is if you don't have control of it, how do you deal? How do you deal with that?
Right.
You know, and I had no clue. You know what I'm saying? Because I just never been faced in that situation of having to trust someone else to help me.
Especially one that you don't even know.
Yeah.
This is your first time y'all meeting each other.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you do that? I just never do. You know, so.
So, Raw, what about you?
Well, y'all know I went to therapy for certain situations that I'm having. With me, it was more of understanding why situations happen and how to get through the situation. So it was a little bit of what you had going on with power, stuff like that. It's like you got into a situation that you couldn't control, and then you had to make a decision that you were faced with that sometimes you know you can make it, but you don't want to make it, but you have to make it. And so you feel like in that aspect of the moment, you're powerless, and you had to understand that not everything is in your control. You can't control everything that you do, or you have to react to certain situations and make things happen. But it was very helpful for me because we all know I'm not one to always talk about my feelings.
No, not you.
Really? You not you. No.
Whatever. So in that aspect, it really did make me talk a little bit more about my feelings and everything that I went through and how I felt about the situation and how the situation made me change, what I felt I could have done different in the situation. And so I came to a realization that, you know, I do like to be in control, and I don't like when I'm not in control.
Oh, really?
I didn't get that either.
But who
I would have
doesn't?
never guessed.
At all.
I would just think like, who doesn't kind of want to be in control? Like it's just like
I mean, but that's the thing. Like everybody wants to be in control of their own fate, and their own destiny, and their own situations. And when that's taken away from you, you feel powerless, and you think of yourself a little less.
yeah, I think that's the basis of therapy, and then trying to understand the things you can't control.
Right.
I think also to add to that, the reason why, and I guess maybe y'all probably can attest to this, the reason why you like control is because so many people in your life have disappointed you so much that you get to the point of, can I really trust you in terms of being able to handle something that I would normally handle myself? And that's kind of where I was. I don't know if y'all agree or disagree as far as.
I mean, my therapy was, I think, really different than y'all's. Like, I feel like I had to, like, I guess I wasn't so worried about control because I always kind of tried to control, myself and worry more about myself and have had to. Mine was really more about, I think, acceptance. And, it was the struggle of always wanting to try to be accepted and always trying to, be something that I was not. And I think at that time, like, I had enough of it. Like, I had enough. Like, I think the job was trying to push me to be a certain way in corporate world and society, right? Like, has stigmas and different things that we have to, be involved in, or we have to portray in order to be accepted as a Black male. So I think for me, it was a lot of those type of things that were like kind of like compounded on me throughout the years. And at that time, I was trying to like still like figure out myself, so to speak. So it was like that conflict, and I was like, I just want to be me. So I felt like that was a lot of pressure to try to keep up with what everyone else expected for me to be, which I guess is kind of a little bit of control. But for me, like, I also had that struggle with being accepted, period. And,
Right.
We've talked about this on multiple occasions. I wasn't accepted by Black people. I wasn't accepted by white people. I wasn't accepted, sometimes, like, my family would have things to say, and I'm not saying my immediate family, but other people would question, how I behaved, how I spoke, how I dressed. So it was like a constant, like, wanting to be accepted in places where I never was. So I think a lot of that, and then trying to like, okay, what can I do to fit in here in society? A lot of that, and it kind of just bubbled over. And by that time, it was like you have to deal with this, and you could only just be you. Like at the end of the day.
So let me ask y'all. We just said that how therapy kind of helped us. Do any of y'all still go to therapy?
No, but I'm definitely looking for a therapist. 'Cause I feel like now we definitely need to There's a lot of stuff that we just don't address, and we should be addressing them. And I think as the Black community in general, and especially Black men, we could definitely benefit from it. So if y'all know some good therapists in the Atlanta area.
What about y'all, Char? Do you still currently go to therapy?
I don't go, but to echo what Edward said, I think like we do mental health checks, I think it's probably best to have a therapist, but we do mental health checks. We have checkups that we schedule physically every 3 months or so. Yeah. I think we should do the same thing.
Every 3 months.
3 months.
I mean, how often? Y'all
Every year.
I'm sorry. I'm on a different. I'm on a different level. Regimen. But no, typically physical here every year. But to your point, I think we should, just like we handle our health, we should do the same thing in regards to making sure that mentally we're fit as well. So I'm not going, but I definitely probably should be going.
All right. What about you, Ro?
Yeah, I definitely need to start going because I got a lot of stuff that I need to work out from my past and current stuff, especially, growing up, probably daddy issues and stuff like that. I need to really get resolved.
Daddy issues, So,
you know what? What y'all not gonna do, right? Sit out here and make fun of me all the time about what things I say. Screw y'all.
No.
But, all honesty, I do need to start going. I did tell my fiance I was going to start going a couple months ago when I felt like things were really getting to me at one point, and I really need to.
The funny thing about the question I just asked y'all is y'all all said, no, I don't go to therapy, and then gave me a PSA of why you should go to therapy. So the answer to my question is no, I do not go. And I stopped going because at a certain point I felt like with my situation, the reason I went is because I lost my son. I felt like at no point I could fully heal from this. So he has gave me the tools that I need to basically deal with my situation. So if I'm not going to get healed fully and you gave me the tools to deal with it, then why am I going anymore? So I completely stopped going.
But I think we need to move away, and I think all of us what we all have in common is we went to therapy when something traumatic happened in our lives. And I think we need to move away from that and start moving toward treating it like it is something that should be done to make sure that we stay
like going to the doctor and the dentist, all
exactly.
that. So, but my question for you guys is, if we're all saying it's important, why did y'all stop going? I just gave you the reason why I stopped going. Why did y'all stop going there? You want to go? Well, Shara, go first.
Well, to your point, I thought that I had the tools necessary to have maintenance, to maintain myself. So whenever I felt myself moving back toward the person that I used to be, I would just kind of revert back to those life lessons I learned in therapy and kind of self-diagnose myself and then kind of heal myself in a sense, which I don't know if that's the best approach to it, but that's similar to what you said, Daryl. I felt like I had some tools, I learned it, so I'll just use it from here on out.
Uh-huh. What about you, Ed?
Yeah,
EJ. I'm not gonna get that
EJ,
right.
You're gonna get it right someday. But I think for me it was just life got hectic, and it was like I didn't build in time. So certain times, certain things you have to kind of schedule for, and I feel like that's something I should schedule. But life just got so busy, I just didn't have time to do it.
And what about you, Raw?
My time was up. My time was up.
So the hour the ding went off.
It was with the situation that happened, I had a certain amount of time, and when that time was up, and I stopped going.
That's real.
No, I respect that. I respect that.
That's not surprising that you would answer like that.
Yeah, it's real. So
I mean, it's the truth. Time was up.
I respect
I had
that.
to get back to.
So I understand. I'm gonna assume that all of us have triggers. So I have my own trigger. I could tell you a big trigger was me, and I told Shar about this. I don't know if I told the rest of y'all, but when I watched Raising Dion on Netflix, that was a huge trigger for me. I went we watched the whole series, and I went in my room. I was probably depressed for 2 days, but I also believe my depression is not for public consumption. So you guys will never know unless I tell you. You guys will never know that I have these moments or whatever. So because I have learned that like I have to internalize what I'm going through and deal with it myself. This is my issue. This is how I deal with my issue. And I just don't think for me it's best to bring everybody involved. I know some people think it differently, but I wanted to talk to y'all. Like, once you get those triggers, how do y'all deal with those situations? Like, what do you do at that point?
You mean like you want like what we actually do? Or
Yeah, what do you do to? No, what do you do?
Two different things.
I don't want to hear. I don't want the PSA. I want you to actually. What do you do to deal? Because I told you with mine, I go by myself. I internalize it by myself. I deal with it by myself. So I want to know what y'all do.
Yeah, mine is the same. Like, I'll get very quiet. So my trigger, one of my big triggers is when I feel like people don't allow people to have control of themselves. When I say that, like when people feel like personal details about a person should be privy to everyone. So when I see that, because I've had that situation happen, that's a trigger for me. So when I feel like someone's being put in a position that would make them uncomfortable, when it's about themselves, that's a big trigger for me. So I usually get very defensive, but if it pertains to me personally, I'll get very quiet. And I'm bubbling over with anger. So at that point, I just immediately shut down, and you will not see me. Because if I say something at that point in time, it's not going to be pretty.
Right. So what about you, Shar?
Okay, my trigger is somewhat like control, but my trigger is when I feel someone is treating me in a way that they're not treating me in the way that I would treat them. In terms of, I feel like if I'm treating you a certain way, and then I feel like you're not treating me that same way, in a situation where I need help, that's when I go off. And when I feel that way, I just need to let it out and say what I need to say at that moment. Even though the people around me are not the type of people who want to talk about it at the time that they want to talk about it. I don't care. I'm mad. I want to talk about it now. I want to get it out. And yeah, that's typically my reaction. And because the people that are around are not like me, it then turns into a much bigger situation than it has to be. So
what are they like? They just don't want to.
I'm around people. I'm around people who like to, like Ed would say, go away, think about it, because if they say the wrong thing, it's gonna make the situation bigger than what it really is. And because I'm the type of person that
You got to deal with it.
at that moment, if I keep pushing them, then they're gonna flip out in a way that they didn't want to flip out, and then that makes it much bigger than what it really is.
So what's the middle ground then there?
What I've been doing is I've been trying to, because I can't control anyone else, I've been seriously trying to restrain myself and trying to not let it go, but just give that person the moment to be ready to talk. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in the moments where it does work, it's because I did take that moment to give that person the opportunity to collect their thoughts.
So you're okay with that?
So I'm trying to be okay with that. So yeah.
I feel like we all kind of know what you're gonna say.
Since you know I'm going to say, just tell me what I'm going to say.
You don't.
I'm a guess.
I
Can I guess?
I feel like, but
Go ahead.
I guess?
wrong.
I would say Rawdon's a very loyal person.
Okay.
So when someone does something to him that they feel like they're being disloyal, that's when he flips out.
Yeah, I don't tolerate disrespect.
Yeah.
I don't like disrespect, and I'm one of those people that I'm more just talking about. If I'm mad, leave me alone. Let me just take my time, decompress, and then we'll talk about it later. I don't like to deal with situations when I'm upset, because I feel like I'm either going to say or do the wrong thing, or do something that people won't like, or something I won't want to do at that moment. So I just like to think about it. We'll come back and revisit another time. Now, my fiance is like Morch. And she wants to talk about it right then and there. And then when I shut down, she gets mad at me. And yeah.
I think I'm as far as shutting down. I want to talk. I think I'm like kind of in the middle. Like it depends who I'm dealing with. So because I try to understand people and their psyche. So if like me and Shar got into it, I know he's gonna want to talk about it right then and there. So then I'll talk about it right then and there. If I'm dealing with y'all two, it's be different. Y'all need some time. So to me, it's more of who I'm dealing with because I try to understand how that person was brought up, how they view the world, and I understand that it's different from me. So I always try to. So maybe me and you should get into more arguments.
Yeah, I know we don't argue. Actually, although I did threaten to fight you like a few minutes ago, but
for a whole minute straight.
For a whole minute straight, yeah.
We wouldn't last 30 seconds before we were both out of breath, man. So we kind of did where we all said we either keep things to ourselves or, I mean, that's basically seems like the running thing here is we kind of internalize it and keep things to ourselves. And I just want to understand, just for us as black males in the totality, why is it so, it seems like it's so hard for us to kind of like open up, express our emotions. Like we can't even do the simple stuff. We can't even say like to a bunch of friends like, hey, I'm hurt because you did this. This may, like we don't even do that. We don't do the simple stuff. Why is it as a community of black males that we find it so hard to like even do the basic things about opening up? Who want to take this?
I mean, I think that's a great question, and that's one that I've, kind of thought about a lot. I think a lot of it is attributed to our upbringing, right? So our upbringing, again, I think is probably crucial to most of the things that are issues for black men in America. We're taught to not speak up, or we're taught to be emotionless because they're equated to feminine traits, right? So if you're crying or you show an emotion, you're acting like a woman, or you're being a female.
Stop being a little girl.
Right. So yeah. And then you're taught also like something you just need to be able to take it, be a man. Like, being a man is like just taking things without actually like addressing them. You kind of like sweep them under the rug. And then you have also those social stigmas that are attached to how a black man should act and operate and be portrayed. And so if you break those molds as well, that's another thing, that the only emotion that we are allowed to be capable of showing is anger, right? Mm-hmm. So we can't talk about it, so we continue to not talk about it. The only thing then that we do have the opportunity to portray is anger and aggression, and then we're volatile, and then we're thugs, and then we're, all these different things, but it's like layer upon layer upon layer of emotions that we just kind of subdued for a very long time. So I think, those are probably one of the biggest things that I think are, affect how, we deal with emotion and why we are the way we are.
No, and I agree. It is funny because I think we're not even like taught to show happiness. Like it's like literally only anger. Yeah. Like soon as you said that, I was like all emotion. Like I don't even know like somebody smiling and like, what are you cheesing for? Like you sit there like call somebody out there too happy or something. I think that's interesting.
Oh, even a mean mug in the picture, like don't smile in the picture.
Yeah, don't smile in the picture. Don't show any like
at all. So I think we confuse I guess trying to be strong with being not angry or just not smiling or not expressing our emotions. And that's kind of what we've been taught. Think about the phrase we have, man up, or like don't be crying, real men don't cry. Or if you think about the stuff that we make fun of, when you first posed that question, the first thing I thought about was Tyrese, crying all the time. And I'm thinking from that.
New memes?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and I thought about that and the whole thing with the Michael Jordan meme, where we just make fun of him just crying like every single where. So we just, as black men, we're just not taught to show emotion. And if you show emotion, it's a sign of weakness. And I mean, for me, it's just as simple as that. I can count in my mind the number of times growing up hearing people, if you fall off your bike or you scrape your knee or something happen, someone like, stop crying, man, just get up, man, like just handle, like you take that, man. It just rings in my mind, so that just, like you say, it's how we grow up, is what we taught as men. Men don't express emotions. Men have to be strong. Men can never show weakness because they got to make sure that everybody else is comfortable and stuff like that. That's just how we're taught.
Yeah, so I agree, because even growing up, it's like you just don't you aren't taught to show certain emotions. You're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to be able to run and tell somebody, "Yo, I'm hurting." You're just supposed to eat it, keep it moving, and figure it out. And to be honest, it still affects all of us to this day. Mm-hmm. For instance, like with me, I'm not sensitive at all.
Sound like you were waiting for us to respond.
I was waiting for you to respond.
And I really restrained myself.
I was.
Trying to learn
Yeah, I was waiting for the witty comeback from all three.
We both were looking around like,
Who's gonna do it?
So with that being said, me not being sensitive in the way that I need to be at times, sometimes I come off a little too harsh, or I come off a little rude. Oh, that word.
Yeah, not you.
oh no.
Yeah, so it's like I'm trying to understand, get that balance in between, whereas show some type of sensitivity and still be that person that I really am. But it stems from all of our childhoods. Like, you know, I was raised by women, but I was also raised to be strong and not show emotion, and, you know, be able to come back with witty responses, or just be that person that you don't show an emotion, you don't cry, you don't let anybody see your weaknesses, and you just stand on your own too, and you do what you have to do. So, I mean, sometimes I feel like it affects my relationship sometimes, because she's hella sensitive, and when I say things, she gets upset, but whatever.
Okay, you literally just did it.
Yeah, whatever.
I really feel like you don't just say things. Like, you go for the jugular, like, every time. And I don't even think you realize that you do.
To be honest, I don't. You're right. I don't realize I do.
Yeah.
That's honest. That's perfect. I don't realize I do. I would say things, and then people get upset, and I'd be like, "Why are you upset?"
Well, even amongst our friendship, like, I don't know if y'all do it. Like, when certain things happen to me, I'm like, okay, who can I talk to about this?
It's not.
So I go through the. So I will tell you, you fall on that list of who not to talk to about this.
Let me tell you a story though. So,
Is this a story about me?
yes. So it was a bachelor party. We were getting ready for a bachelor party, and I called Raw. I was like, man, I have anxiety about. Told y'all I have anxiety about flying an airplane. I called him and I was like, man, I have real anxiety, and he's like, stop being a bitch. That's exactly his response to me. So what did I do? I hung up with him and I called Edward. And Edward's like, it's cool. You're gonna sit next to me. It's gonna be alright. We go that was his response. So,
Wow. I mean, like, are you really surprised?
no, I wasn't. And when he said it, I was like, this is my fault, because I shouldn't have went to him.
But all I'm saying is, I don't know what I'm saying.
I would give you this. I'm gonna end on a positive note.
Of course, the one guy that's gonna stick up for him.
If I need to vary a body, or if I need, or I know it's about to go down, I need somebody by my side who's gonna be there to do what I need to do. You're the first person I'm calling.
You're right. I'm alright.
I'll give you that.
Without question.
Yeah.
You just gonna say it. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Like, for real, if we talk about Ra, and like you're talking about, you're in a situation where you're emotional. Like, if someone did something to you, you call Ra, because Ra will be the first one to jump in to your defense. Like, he will do that, but do not talk to him about how you feel. You need to be coddled, because you're not gonna get coddled. He's basically going to say like 3 words and be like, all right, I gotta go. Like, that's all you're gonna get from him.
And you know what? And that's true. Like, and I'm really trying to work on it, because people will come talk to me about their emotions, and I'll be like, I don't know what to say, so I'm gonna call you back, and just never call them back.
At all.
I mean, you literally just listen.
Yeah.
Like, so.
No, he doesn't even listen.
No, that's why
he
I'm
shuts
telling
down.
him. I'm telling you, like, when Shar
yeah.
calls me or Edward calls me, I literally just listen, and then I come in a little bit. I ask questions. How do you feel about this? Like, it's almost like a therapy session.
But I don't know how to do that. Like, I get, like, how Shar gets uncomfortable when we talk about sex. I get uncomfortable when we talk about emotions.
Why am I being designated as a person who gets uncomfortable that talks
You
about sex?
actually said that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Really, like,
Yeah, so I don't know how to take people talking about their emotions, or me to talk about my emotions. I really don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm trying to work on, because I'm in a relationship with somebody that likes to talk about their feelings all the damn time. So I'm trying to work on that.
Even then he sounded
Yeah.
like he was so aggravated.
You were so aggravated even talking about it.
Bro, I swear to God, like, if she's up and it could be like 4 o'clock in the morning, and whatever pops in her mind, she wants to talk about it, and I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, just shut up.
That's people. Like, I will do
But anyway, but when it comes to like, back on track, when it comes to emotions, I'm really not good at handling other people's emotions and listening to people's emotions. I don't even talk about my own emotions.
But that's what therapy did for me, because not only did it help me expose myself, it helped me expose everybody. It literally let me say we all are fucked up.
Yeah.
Like all of it. So I literally had people. So this would be a chagrin for you, Raw. But I had people like coworkers call me and bust out crying on the phone just because they're stressed out. They got to hit this deadline. They got to hit this goal. They don't know how to do it. And like I had like 3 or 4 people just bust out crying. I don't know why, I'm the guy to cry to, but like I just,
nice guy.
I think I just sit there and listen. I don't interject. Because sometimes I feel like. I remember Shar called me one day, you vented, and you was like, I'm sorry that you just said all this.
I just be talking, and like, dang, I just trying to give Daryl a chance to kind of say something that he,
No, I was quiet the entire time, because I was like, he probably needs this. It was even one day, I called Edward one day, and I was going through something, and I called him, but then he was going through something, and then he started talking about himself. So then I said to myself, well, he probably needs this, and I was just quiet the entire time.
But I did go back to him. We circled back to him because I
No,
realized,
we didn't.
Yes, we did.
No,
we had several conversations. I don't know which conversation exactly. But most of the conversations, if I feel like, oh shoot, maybe he was trying to say something to me, like I'll be like, oh Gerald, but what were you talking about? Because I will start talking and get on the tangent.
I got a question for you, Daryl, because I do this with you and probably a lot of people, and it's intentional in my mind because I'm trying to make the person feel like it's not just you, other people are going through it too. So if you'll tell a story, I'll try to give you something relatable, like, dude, it's not just you. Right. Is everybody else kind of go through the same thing too? Does that come across that way to you when we doing that, or is it like?
Well, like you tell stories?
Talk about something, because we have conversations about relationships. So then I'll be like, yeah, bro, that just comes with the territory. I'll tell you what happened with me. Do you feel that vibe, or does it come across like, oh, God, he's just talking about himself? Okay,
I don't ever think that y'all's. I feel like this might be your only chance to get it out. So it might be safer with me because I'm not a guy to tell every bunch of people, and then I'm not the one to interject and say, well, let me tell you about myself, because I hate when people do that. So
no, you literally have to pull it out of you. Like I literally several conversations. He will start talking about himself, and then he'll start talking about something else, and I'm like, okay, so let's go back to the conversation, and you tell me about like what your thoughts are on it. He's telling me about everything else, and I'm like, but how do you feel about it? Like,
right, yeah, that's true.
Have to pull it
that's
out.
True. And then usually when I go through something, I tell y'all like months after it happened. So I remember I told you about the Racing Dion thing. It was months after it happened. Okay. So I've never kind of do it right then and there. So that's probably why I'm never emotional talking about, because I've already dealt with it in my way.
But then I'm not gonna say this because we put Rodden out there. I'm not gonna leave him out there alone. You are actually you're actually pretty good in terms of keeping stuff close to your chest as well too. Yeah, I will give you that because it takes a minute to pull stuff out of you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I cannot. I think that I do keep a lot of things internal, only because sometimes I just don't know what the reaction will be to some things, because the reaction that I've had in the past hasn't been favorable, especially when it's about my own, sexuality, not necessarily sex, but my own sexuality and relationships. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. Okay. So for me, like if it relates to that part of me, a lot of times will keep it to myself until I feel comfortable, with the people that I'm talking to about it. So yeah, you got it right. You got it right on some things, but some things I talk about freely. Like I don't have an issue. Really.
Right, so like for this instance, I went ghost on y'all during the riots and all that stuff. The real reason I went ghost was because a lot of
we didn't talk about that. I'm sorry.
A lot of it.
Okay, let's see what it's going.
I felt like I had to separate myself from a lot of people and things. So like deleted my Facebook, I deleted my Instagram, I deleted all the news apps and all that stuff because I felt myself getting angry, and it was twofold. Being black and being an officer, it's a really tough thing.
Absolutely.
So
That's real.
when you have to justify both parts of you, it's hard to do, and it's hard to talk to people that don't quite understand it. So for me, I had to really separate myself because I saw a lot of things that were hurting me on both sides. And like I told my fiance, I was like, yo, I gotta separate this stuff because I'm getting upset and I don't want to be that person because I'm not that person. So I deleted my Facebook, my Instagram. I went ghost on y'all.
Yes,
Should've
we
done
were
that,
checking.
but-
Now, let's just give the background of what was happening during this time. I think this was the time where that was all the looting was going on, all of the social unrest in Atlanta after, was it?
It was the George Floyd.
It was George Floyd. Yeah, it was George Floyd
situation.
situation.
We knew you was in the streets.
Exactly,
also.
and we knew
Yeah.
it in the streets. Yo, I texted him and I said, yo, you're not responding to any of us. I really hope that you're okay. I care about you, or I love you, bro, or something like that. And it was crickets.
We had to call Danny to I was like, is he all right? Like, 'cause I was like, I didn't know if you were in a hospital shot or something.
Like, at all. Because
Like-
there was so much going on at
Yeah.
that time.
And I had to call her, and she was like, nah, I just talked to him. Got off the phone with him. And I was
Or we
like,
would see, it was crazy.
And also, I guess to that point, it's a testament of friendship because although you were doing that, we was like, obviously something's going on, and we didn't take it personally. And I thought about myself when I thought about that, and then shout out specifically to Ralph Dorsonville and Charles Arnold. When I was going through what I was going through as far as with the kidney situation, I did something similar to you where I completely shut down from everyone. And those two friends, I call them out particularly because even though I pulled myself away, they just waited for me. They literally waited for me to kind of say, okay, we know Shamorge. He's going through this. Once he gets back and ready to talk, he's going to come back and do whatever we want to do. And that's kind of how we were to you, in a sense. Like, we knew you were, like, out there, but we knew you were going through something. So we're like, okay, we're going to wait until he's ready to talk. Well, not ready to talk, but come back into the group.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna talk. Nothing happened.
So, and we just waited for you to come back, and we just went back as normal.
no, that's
In terms of,
interesting
like,
because Solora, my wife, she would always tell me like I need to talk to somebody. Like she was like the pastor. Hey, he's here. He's ready to talk to you. Do you want to talk to him? And I said no. And the reason I didn't want to talk to him because he didn't understand what I was going through. He's gonna give me the same generic comment that everybody's gonna give me, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So when I did, just like you guys, I completely shut off. And that's why I had to, again, me and Char talk almost every day. But remember we were talking about grooms. We got into some argument about groomsmen, all four of us.
Oh my God.
And then,
I didn't get into argument.
yeah, we got into it. But the comment was, I have friends outside of y'all. And I was offended by that comment because of the simple fact is when my situation happened, the people who knew me and was around Jaden like that, I cut off completely. So I don't have friends outside of y'all because I stopped talking to these people. Because why did I stop talking to these people? Because they always brought up him. Every conversation, they brought up him. And I didn't want to talk to them. So I cut off everybody. Even with y'all, I stopped talking to everybody. And then Talora was like, you have to tell them. And I'm like, for what? Why do I have to tell them? And she just said, she actually the one that pushed me. I don't remember who was all there, but we also had a big meeting. It was a bunch of us there. And I just told y'all in this huge meeting.
It was an event, though. I think talk about.
Yeah, I called all of y'all one by one to come here to kind of tell you because I knew he was important to all of us. He was around all of us, but yeah, I checked out too. I still really, to this day, I don't talk to people because nobody can relate to me. So I think that's what's saying with you is that if you came even if you came and we all said how you doing, checking on you, I don't know what you're going through.
Right.
So we're just like people are going to tell me the same generic thing. We're going to tell you the same generic thing that doesn't help.
And just to add to that, we were having an argument regarding your bachelor party.
Oh my god.
But
So that was.
it's a backstory to that.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so I think one day after the argument, all of us met up for dinner, all four of us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what I didn't know was Edward and Shanita had a conversation.
Shanita being your wife.
Shanita being my wife, in terms of talking about me and my kidney issue, to which Edward revealed to Shanita that he had a sister who was going through the same thing that I was going through and unfortunately lost her life. So I never knew that about Edward. As long as at that point, as long as we've been friends, I never knew that. So when we came to dinner, I came to dinner with that piece of information. And when I look at Edward, I couldn't even hold it in anymore. I just burst out crying at the table. So y'all didn't know what was going on between.
Yeah, you did start crying. You did start
but
crying.
it wasn't about that.
But he didn't know.
Yeah.
He told me.
Yeah.
The story.
The real story.
behind it.
And to your point, the reason why I started crying because for the first time I felt like somebody had seen me.
Right.
And that's like to your point. That's kind of what I was like. Well, Dad, he actually know what I've been going through. And oh, I'm crying now. And like that's kind of why I was like,
Oh my God, you're actually.
so he saw me.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's important for you. And so I think with black men in general, because I don't know if you're off tangent or not. I think it's important for us to be seen. And in a lot of situations, whether it's dealing with our own personal issues or in the world in general, I think a lot of black men hold their feelings in because they feel like no one sees them.
And you know what's funny about that? I have a theory about hoodies, and I think I told y'all my theory about hoodies. Is like we want to be able to be seen and not. So usually when I don't want to talk, I don't want to speak to anybody, my hoodie is up. And usually people don't. It's usually a black man in a hoodie. They have a feeling about that anyway.
Right.
But people don't approach me. They don't talk to me. And then when I feel that, I'll take it back down. But that's kind of like we kind of want to be seen. But then when we're out in the streets, let's say a guy might look at you too long, and you like, why you looking at me?
Yeah.
Why you staring at me? What's up? You want to be like? Is it like we sit there and go there? So not only do we want to be seen, we don't want to be seen. We get mad when we are seen.
Yeah, it's almost like we don't want to be.
Yeah, it's like we don't want to be
told.
too right.
Yeah.
We don't want to be like the focus.
Like you see me,
Yeah.
like I'm mad at you
Yeah.
for seeing me. And I was the same thing. Actually, me and my wife had this conversation last night, and she just told me about how she thinks I haven't healed properly from my situation. And my question to her is, how do you heal? And then the problem is, it's like I had one of my friends. She was like, you need to learn to let him go. And my question to her was, let me ask you a question. Would you have done that? And then they can't answer that question, or they'll say yes, but they'll never be put in that situation. So it's like, how do you tell me to do something?
Or know how to.
I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with you, Daryl, if you among us being your friends, I think one of the things we never did with you is gave you advice. I think we did what you asked us to do is just listen. And you just ran it and say whatever you wanted to say, and when you sat there, we listened to you. And that's just lessons, hopefully, that whoever's listening to this, sometimes an solution is not needed.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes people just want to be heard.
Sometimes people just want to be heard and just talk about it. And your job is just to sit there
and listen.
to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think whenever we have the conversation about it, first of all, I never had a kid. I don't have a kid, so I would know what raising a kid was like, what emotions get attached to that, what feelings you feel after you go through a loss like that. Like there was no way for me to try to I can empathize with the emotion and the hurt, but I can't identify with that situation because I hadn't gone through it. So I felt like I just listened a lot, or I asked questions. I'm like, okay, what else? I'm just trying to understand, like, what are all your options? What else can you do? At that point, like, I think that sometimes, I think another reason why we don't talk enough, especially black men, is because we don't feel like, just like you said, we're not seen or we weren't heard, but also we don't feel like people will understand our perspective because, yeah, we might all be black men, but our perspectives and our situations
Also
and
different.
our experiences are very different. So you never know if like the next black man had the same experience as you. So it's kind of like, I don't want to put myself out there for a person not to be able to help me.
Right. And also you don't want to put you out, like what I used to do is what I tell somebody how I felt or how I felt they wronged me, they would then flip it and say, well, this is how you wrong me, or you're viewing it wrong. This is how you should view it.
Exactly.
And I'm like, if you're going to just tell me how I'm wrong in every situation, then there's no point for me to express myself. Then I could just keep it to myself.
That's like not a listener though, so that's the problem.
Yeah, the problem, you got to find somebody who's going to actually listen.
How you're wrong in this situation, that's not what we're talking about. Like,
so let me ask you guys, because we talked about our childhood, and it's basically toxic masculinity. It's kind of what we're talking about. Because I grew up in a situation that they were telling me what a man is. A man is aggressive. A man doesn't cry. Like, basically, a man has to be intimidating. And because, you know, I'm a smaller guy and I'm probably like a little more like even kill. I don't get too up or too down about things. In their eyes, I was less of a man. And that kind of how people do, you know, us in society. So I wanted to ask, are we moving to a point though? Because our generation, how we grew up is a little different from how the kids are growing up now. Do you guys think we're moving into because I think hip hop, rap music is like a microcosm of our culture. So when we were kids, it was aggression, very aggressive. Now they're more like kind of emo rap. Like it's all about, it's like they're depressed as hell. So I wanted to, So I wanted to say, is it moving to a point though where for black males, is it looking different? Are we able to now express ourselves? Do y'all think?
I don't think that it's actually shifted very much. I think that we're allowed to express ourselves in a few different ways. Yes, in the rap game, especially if you think about the young rappers, the way that they express themselves and they show themselves and they put themselves out in media is different than we see rappers back in the day, right? So like now you see them wearing, you know, more form-fitted clothes, bright clothes, different clothes, like that we would probably not associate with the rapper. But I don't feel like the dial has moved in society enough that black men feel comfortable and that they have a safe space to talk about their emotions, that, you know, they're allowed to do it.
Right.
Like, there's nothing that tells us that, there's nothing that supports the theory that a black man can have emotions and still be a man.
Right. Raw, you about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Edward. I feel that society in a total sense has gotten really sensitive about certain things and how they act about certain stuff. But when it comes to the black community, we still hold that taboo aspect of you're still a man, don't do that, don't do this, don't cry, don't do all that stuff. Because even if you listen to the rap, it's talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of depressing stuff, but it never allows the person to say, hey, I'm hurting.
Right, it just says do drugs.
Yeah, it just literally just says suppress your emotions by doing other things.
Right.
So it's still some type of toxicity that is there in our culture. So it kind of sucks, but you know.
I agree with your assessment of it. I do believe that the topic of mental health is talked about more than I've ever heard it talked about as far as in my in my lifetime. At the same time, I don't know if we have the necessary resources available from a broader perspective to truly deal with what our black community needs to talk about. So I think it's a combination of the resources not being there and then us not actually getting to the point where we're even comfortable enough to truly use the resources. So I guess that's my answer to it.
Yeah,
how to bridge that gap, I guess.
I was told, a family member told me that mental health is a luxury black people cannot afford. Yeah. Because we gotta work. We can't take time. Because you remember when a celebrity, especially a white celebrity, would do something crazy, then they would check themselves into rehab. Yeah. We can't afford that because we can't afford to take that time off. And it was like, that's a luxury that we cannot afford.
But part of that is kind of true though, because when you look at just our table, all of us are probably in a better position than a lot of people where we can actually make that investment in our mental health individually. So a part of that is probably actually true when you sit back and think about it, or somewhat, you know, because, you know, still are the resources there. If someone really wanted to go to mental health, to a therapist, are the resources truly available for someone to truly, not even from availability, but even cost-wise? Is it there?
You go through your insurance, or if you have it.
If some people have it, you know, so it's like, yeah.
So, I mean, I agree. on both sides of that conversation. There are some, some pluses and there's some deltas on that. Now, what the issue that I have is that it just seems like every other race but ours uses mental health.
Mm-hmm. True.
Right? Like it becomes a taboo subject for us. It becomes well beyond our grasp for us, but in every other race, they're utilizing mental health in a way that helps them understand what's going on with them. We're the only race that I know of in the United States that really doesn't access it as much. I'm sure there are more, but I see us using it the least. I will say that I do agree that sometimes it does have to do with access to certain services, right? Like on one end, access to that is always probably at a disparity for people, especially Black people that live in majority of the low income areas in the United States, or in areas where that is not a big resource available. Now, on the other end of that, there's been so many reforms in healthcare. There's been so many things added that you do have access to certain resources, limited, but still there. EAP, so employee assistance programs. Every employer has to offer that. So that's something that we could utilize, and usually it's free for a certain amount of services. There are some other parities that happen with mental health that we should definitely make sure we're educating ourselves on, where there are things that are available for us at a lower cost, or maybe included in something that you may not know of. So I think number one, it's going to be access. Number two, it's going to be, are we educated enough to know about the resources that are available? And then number three, it's something within our own culture where we just choose not, there's no value in it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's real. I was like, I don't know what to say.
This is what we typically kind of go to. Yeah. I mean, that's right.
That's exactly what we do.
Because that's what I did through my job. That's how I found my therapist. We went to the program, and I believe my co-host was just like $20. Was $20, so it wasn't much, but still, are people educated enough about it to actually know? Because I didn't know what to do. And then when I actually was looking for a therapist, I called like 5 of them. Only one called me back. So that was enough. That was, tough. It was almost discouraging. I was like, man, maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't be doing this. But so let me ask you guys, this is my last question before we start wrapping it up. How do we help the future generation then? If we're saying that us and how we were taught, we're having so much problems and it's not even fixed now. So let's just say my son, right? My wife is pregnant. So for him, how do we make it okay for him to express himself and be able to express himself and not think that he's lesser than for doing so?
That's really a good question, because even with me, I mean, I don't have any kids right now, but I'm surrounded by children. I'm still in the mindset especially when boys fall, even when girls fall, like, yo, get up, dust it off and keep moving, because you don't want them to be, quote unquote, a crybaby. Yeah. You don't want to be too sensitive, too soft. So it's, how do you have that good balance in between where you can have them be tough in certain areas where they need to be and still be able to be okay to come to you and say, hey, I'm hurting or I need help with something. So, I mean, it's just basically learning from your past, I guess, and trying to help them through what they're going through and try to change generational traits that you have developed over years. So it's really up to us to find that balance where we're at this point in our lives in society where we are feeling like we need to evolve more as a person and we need the help of others to evolve. We need to also show them that they can do the same thing and grow up and be still tough, masculine, or feminine, or whatever you need them to be, or whatever they're going to be, and still have them be able to talk about their feelings so you can know what's going on with them and you won't have to wait till something traumatic happens.
Yeah, you just hit everything I was thinking on the head. I think we need to communicate and talk more to our generations and make it a situation where they're comfortable talking about their feelings. I think we all need to be accountable for ourselves and make the effort to deal with ourselves as far as going to therapy and healing our own selves. Because I know there's been many times that I've been told that you do that just like your mom used to do, or you do that just like your dad used to do. And we do inherit those traits that we pick up from our parents because it's they because that's what they did, and that's because that's what we saw. We do what they did. So that's real. It really is real. And I think those are two things that we can do to try to make sure that, and also teach kids, like you said, Raw, to learn how to deal with adversity. In terms of when something definitely comes up in your life and something bad's happened, what is the approach that you take to get through that tough time? I think a lot of kids, and I'm comfortable to say that this is our opinion, really don't know how to deal with tough situations when tough situations arise.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and I think it's important for, like you say, to find that balance for them to figure out how to deal with tough situations. So,
Right.
Yeah, I think we have to start creating those safe spaces for them to feel okay with expressing themselves. I think that there are a lot of celebrities that I think are doing a great job at allowing their children the freedom to speak. I think the Smiths do a good job with that. Their children are very outspoken. They express their emotions really well. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but I'm saying that that's a good example. That's something to to see and to take note. I think that we also need to be the examples ourselves to children, because children grow up by example. So what you do in your household will be exactly how they will, kind of take some things here and there from that, and that's how they also will behave in their own life. So I think that we have to be that example. Have conversations with children about how they're feeling. Talk about the hard things, the good things. Everything's not going to be perfect. I think it's just kind of changing the dynamic of how we operate as a Black family. Like we need to be more communicative. We need to talk about emotion. We need to say that it's okay to feel a certain way and find out why you feel that way, and have discussions about that. I'm not saying that we're going to coddle them. I'm not saying that we're going to just try to make them these super unmanageable beings, but they need to have that space to feel okay and feel like they're being heard and understood.
Yeah, and I think I agree with all of y'all, but I think it's also interesting that having a happy marriage and a family had just started to be cool. It isn't really still not that cool, but it started to be cooler than what it was when we were growing up. So that should tell you how far off we are compared to other people. But I would just say that I would ask any kid, and I'm gonna ask this for adults too, so anybody can answer this question: do you want to be the victim or the victor? And you can't, because you can't be both. You sit here, you can't be both. If you're gonna be a victim, you can't be a victor. If you're gonna be a victor, you can't be a victim. You know what I'm saying? And how are these situations not do to you, but how did these situations do for you? And those are the questions that we need to constantly learn. We don't lose is what did you learn from these situations? And also have them open enough to express ourselves and not be down for doing so. So I want to end it. One last question real quick. What have you guys learned today? That's my last question before we get out of here.
I learned that Raw can be emotional when he wants to.
I don't know if that's what I learned today.
I learned that y'all think I'm heartless, and I'm a heartless bastard in these streets, and I'm just out here to cause pain.
Poor Danny.
Out here in these streets?
I actually one simple question: do you cry ever?
Or when's the last
When's the
time?
last time you cried?
Because Shar was 10 minutes ago.
Mine was literally 10 minutes ago.
The last time I shed tears was when I had a conversation with Danny about her feeling a certain way, about her feeling less than what she really is.
How long ago was that?
About a year.
So a year. Okay. I'm really surprised at that. Yeah, that was better than what I thought it would be.
Really? Damn.
Right.
Screw y'all.
So what about you, AJ?
Crying?
Oh, was that yesterday?
No, it was
No, what did you learn for this?
Okay.
If you want to answer the crying
I was
one.
gonna say no. I haven't cried for at least a month.
A month?
A good solid month.
10 minutes, a
Out
month?
right now. Not even cry. So
Right.
I learned that we still have a long way to go. As a Black community, as Black men, to getting mentally healthy. And we just need to, continue these conversations, continue to encourage each other to take that step forward so we can improve. For myself personally, I think this just kind of like solidified how I felt about this group of friends that I have. That we genuinely care about each other and we genuinely have a lot of really good interest and we want to see our community do better. And this is one of the areas that we want to see improvement.
Absolutely. The crying question it's been over a year. Because y'all wouldn't let me cry at the wedding because y'all was making too much fun. No, I wasn't.
You did cry. You cried after my speech.
You dropped one tear.
Oh, I did cry at your wedding.
Okay.
When I was doing my speech, and you were crying with me.
I was not crying with you.
There was one tear that came down your
It was
eye.
not.
Yes, it
down
was.
that aisle.
You
I
were crying
saw
and-
it.
That's not
And
true.
I saw Lori consoling you.
Definitely not true.
I do have one question. You weren't crying when you hugged your dad for like 20 minutes.
No, because he was hugging me so tight that my glasses was like piercing my nose. Dude.
Y'all hugged for a long.
No, because he wouldn't get it wasn't like his arm was like clutched over my face. Man. Well, and what I learned now can I finish? What I learned today is that we are all fucked up.
Yeah, we are.
We are all mentally fucked up and we need help. That's what I learned today. So closing, anybody, find somebody to talk to who will actually listen and not probably put in their 2 cents or belittle you, but find somebody who will just actually listen and or professional help. All right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for today. We thank you guys for listening. You guys can check us out on Anchor, Spotify, SoundCloud, all titled Less of a Man Podcast. Am I correct, Edward?
That's right.
I was going to get into that, yes. Follow our Instagram page as well as our Facebook page. They all Less of a Man Podcast.
Yes.
We have some great topics there. Please comment. Let us know how y'all feel about this. Let us know about topics you guys want us to speak on. And I guess until next time, you want to say bye to the nice people?
Peace.
Peace.
Latest.
Yeah, he got to be too cool, man.
Yeah.